Good evening, it's Monday, it's 7 o'clock, I'm Richard Littlejohn. Tonight, what now for the gay Labour MP trawling the internet for casual sex with strangers? Bryant, the Labour MP for Rhondda in South Wales, posted pictures of himself in his underpants on a gay dating website. He also sent sexually explicit emails to a man he'd never met. Now, this being a family show, I'm afraid you'll just have to use your imagination. Bryant, of course, is entitled to a private life, but this is no way for any MP to behave. Not because he's gay, I'd say the same thing about a heterosexual or woman member of Parliament. Where his sexuality is an issue, though, is when it influences his professional behaviour. Bryant was the most vocal campaigner for the legalisation of cottaging, the term for gay sex in public toilets, which all decent people find utterly disgusting. As a man with a taste for casual sex with complete strangers, he clearly had a vested interest. But Labour won't comment. It says it's a private matter. But Bryant is a public figure, and he's made an issue of his sexuality. As for his future, well, that's not for me. That's for his constituents in the Rhondda to decide. Right, well, that's where we kick off tonight. I'm joined in the studio by Brett Locke from the gay campaign group Outrage, Michael Brown, former MP and our columnist for The Independent, and Dr. Edwin Moore, a Baptist pastor from Mr. Bryant's constituency, joins me from our Cardiff studio. Brett Locke, his position here is untenable, isn't it?
I don't think so. I mean, he hasn't broken the law. And I find it strange there's such a prurient interest in public figures' sex lives. I mean, in the same edition of the Sun that ran the story today, there was speculation about half a dozen other celebrities' sex lives, including Anton Deck, who apparently is hiring lap dancers. And I think the person who summed it up inadvertently the best was the 58-year-old grandmother that the Sun interviewed, or was it the Daily Star, one of the two. She said, "We are fairly open-minded about people's sexuality. We just don't want it thrust in front of us. So why do the tabloids insist in thrusting it in front of people?" Mr. Bryant wasn't doing anything in public. This was a dating service where members of the public had to register. It wasn't an open forum. It wasn't the type of website that your young daughter might wander onto, or indeed the 58-year-old grandmother. Someone would have to actually go there on purpose, seeking out the same thing that Mr. Bryant was seeking out, which apparently, according to the Daily Star, was simply a boyfriend.
Michael Brown, he's done nothing illegal, but his constituents are bound to think he's done something immoral, surely.
Yeah, I don't want to comment on his morality or whether he's broken the law or not. He's clearly not, as Brett says, broken the law. What he has been, though, is a total prat. You know, you are, if you're a member of Parliament, and I've been where he's been to a certain extent, let's declare the interest. I was a gay Tory MP, and I was once the subject of 10 pages of The Sun and the News of the World 10 years ago. And you have to recognise that if you're a member of Parliament, if you commit anything to paper, if you take photographs of yourself in extraordinary underpants, I mean, that's what I have to say about it more than anything. I mean, he makes himself a figure of fun and ridicule. And if you're a member of Parliament and you put yourself in that position, and I have not put myself in that position, but I have been a prat in a different way, and you have to recognise that when you are a prat as a member of Parliament, you open yourself up to ridicule, and you do then strain the loyalty of your constituents. It's bad enough for gay people to get a hearing from members of Parliament. It's bad enough for members of Parliament to make the case for gay rights to constituents, but you strain their loyalty when you do this kind of thing. This guy, as Brett says, did operate on a website which was for members only. The blunt truth is, though, if you're a member of Parliament, a different standard applies. It may be wrong, but it's a fact of life, and any member of Parliament that enters the House of Commons has to acknowledge that or pay the price.
Let's get a view from the constituency. I'll come back to you in a moment, Brett. Excuse me. Dr. Edwin Moore, who's the pastor of a church down there in the Rhondda. Good evening to you. How's this playing in South Wales tonight?
Well, I think it's a disgrace, and it doesn't make any difference if it was a homosexual or a heterosexual. This is unacceptable activities for a man in his position, and it has been thrust in our face. We didn't ask for it. He willingly put it out on the internet. He knew that it was accessible by many, and therefore it was very unwise for him to do this. And I think the best thing he could do would be step down. It will not only taint his tenure, but it will also, as it did Mr. Clinton in the United States, it'll take a great portion of his time to try to live this down. And I think as far as his effectiveness, if he's ever had any effectiveness, it's completely lost.
When he turned up at his selection meeting, when he stood for the candidacy down there, did he declare that he was gay? Did he say that one of his main objectives was the legalization of gay sex in public toilets?
Well, he didn't say that he was going to legalize sex in public toilets, but it was common knowledge that he was a homosexual, yes.
And so what the people in Rwanda are not cross with him for being homosexual. They accepted that, but they now think he's crossed the boundaries of taste and decency, do they?
That's correct. That's correct.
And that's the issue, Brett, isn't it?
No, I think this is the most ludicrous hypocrisy. I mean, you make an issue out of, say, something like sex in a public place, which arguably a great many people object to.
It's not arguably. A great many people do
I can
find
see,
it utterly revolting.
I can see that, but of course heterosexuals have sex in public places as well, and that's not quite
They
as
tend
much
not to
an
do it
issue.
in public
It's just
toilets,
as
do they,
bad.
though?
But
One
let's
way or
not
the
go
other.
down that line. What I'm saying is, if you object to that, here he is seeking to find a sexual partner in a non-public place, a dating agency where people are required to register and only like-minded people would congregate. There is no menace to the public. There is no way that this could outrage public morals because, frankly, 58-year-old pensioners don't go and visit the Gaydar website.
Yes, but Brett, the blunt truth is, if you're a member of Parliament and you go and visit a website like that, and you are then shocked, actually, let's come back, by somebody else from the gay community who rings up, presumably, the Mail on Sunday and sells the story, you're asking for trouble. I mean, I make no comment on the morality of members of Parliament. I'm in no position to do that. And members of Parliament's morality ultimately is decided by
But there was a
their
lot of comment on the morality of members of Parliament when your party was in government. The
That's
Labour
right.
Party was screaming Tory sleaze all the time.
And that is why, Richard, when I got caught, I recognise, I mean, let's just remind everybody, viewers, that I went on holiday with somebody who was below the age of consent. I broke the law. Lawmaker was lawbreaker, and I resigned my job as a minister in John Major's government. And I accepted that I had behaved foolishly, and ultimately, I decided that my electorate would be the judge of it. This chap has not committed a crime. He's behaved foolishly. I hope that he will learn. You just don't do that kind of thing as a member of Parliament.
For example, John Major was having an affair.
Absolutely, and I think
So
I
there
think that
he was damaging.
outrageous.
That was adulterous. He was
Yep.
damaging a third party.
Yep, absolutely.
There is no victim in this case. There are other cases where members of Parliament or members of the clergy are hypocrites, where they're voting for one thing, they're standing
Sure.
up for one thing, and they're living a totally different life.
But-
this person is open about his sexuality. He makes no bones about it.
Absolutely, no problem there at all. The trouble
Right.
is, this chap is going to have diverted from, as the pastor has just said, this chap who is normally one of the biggest defenders of Tony Blair. I mean, there isn't a programme where Tony Blair isn't defended by this chap. He's low. Unfortunately, his problem is this.
I don't
But who is
want to
this-
go down the political route. What I do want to get down is the practical one. I want to go back to Dr. Moore down in South Wales. Can he hang on to his seat there? Will he be forgiven for this?
Yes.
You're forgiving people down there.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, will he be forgiven for this in South Wales?
Oh, I don't know. It's a matter that he's always asking people to forgive him. But at the same time, as we're talking about hypocrisy, a man that acts in a manner like this, and then he wants to accuse everybody else of hypocrisy and not having the ability to say anything about it. If it had been on the other foot, and it had been a Christian, for instance, that had done a bad deed, then everybody would be on it. Well, look at this and look at that, look at the hypocrisy.
Dr. Moore, I've got to stop you there. We're right out of time. Brett, Michael Brown, thank you very much indeed. Coming up in part 2 from tomorrow, You may be breaking the law by putting up Christmas cards in your workplace.